Welcome back, and today we're flying out one of my favorite props in the game. It's the Hornet Mk.III, as well as the one in the premium tech tree. Now these two don't differ all that much. Keep in mind that the premium one does not have high-octane fuel, but it does carry less minimum fuel, making it slightly lighter, and with all the benefits that come with that. Do I really prefer one or the other? I kinda think I prefer the one in the regular tech tree. The extra power is always nice to have, and yes, the slightly more maneuverable frame due to the less weight is nice to have, but it doesn't really come into play all that often, and I do think that having more power basically benefits you all the time. It's not a very maneuverable plane to begin with, but you can dogfight a lot of guys with this thing, simply because you always have the energy to do so. Your entry speed against most planes is incredibly high. You get a massive airspan. You get some of the best climb rate out of any prop in the game. And on top of that, it is just incredibly fast. So it's very easy to store all that energy and just go rampant throughout the entire match. Personally, I'm a big fan of just dogfighting in this thing. We do the same thing with the F7F here. We stall him out. He has basically no nose authority. And then as he stalls out, he kind of flips over and manages to nick my tail. I get kind of lucky that he doesn't outright kill me there, but at the same time, he didn't have a good gun solution and I'm in a much better position. So is it really lucky? Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, it kind of cancels out. But it's the reason I never really go straight vertical and stall myself out like that, because it's very easy to misjudge something, to get unlucky, especially with a plane with the size of an oil tanker. You don't want to leave anything to luck, and if one of your engines gets hit, you get set on fire, you get pilot sniped, your tail gets shot off, you name it, your game is essentially over. And right here, I go slightly more horizontal. He manages to hit a singular 50 cal from like 1.3 kilometers, and I'm in a good position here. This is why I go horizontal, but he manages to get a very long range shot in, because this plane is incredibly big. And of course all he hits is my engines as well as my cockpit. It's like these 50 cals have gravitational pull towards anything that one-shots your plane. But it doesn't matter. I'm directly above him, he is stalled out, and we send him straight to the lion that loves small dogs that lives in Narnia. After killing the P-51H, we kind of just keep on diving to kill the guy that isn't really paying attention. But I hope it is kind of clear what this plane is about. You want to use your energy, and dogfighting is not really what it's made for. You really want to keep this thing fast to make yourself a harder shot, but I just really enjoy stalling people out and energy trapping people with a plane that is vastly less maneuverable. And that's why I love the Hornet so much. It's not because it's so fast and I can run away from everyone. It's because every time I win a dogfight, it feels incredibly satisfying. Also, at the start of every match, you basically get 2 to 3 free kills of the AFK climbing variety. Now, I'm personally not the biggest fan of this kind of playstyle, where I get free kills, but I'm also not gonna leave them just for them to kill me later on in the game. So we kill 2 guys at the very start, and we just kind of break back off and go towards the massive furball. We are still above the entire enemy team, because the climb rate is just incredibly excessive. Why this thing has an airspan to begin with, I have honestly no clue. The only thing that will really contest you to altitude is 2 planes. It's the BI-1, yeah, no shit, as well as the Mk.III. Now the Mk.III is kind of like you, it's slightly more maneuverable, it climbs a lot better, but overall I think that this plane is just vastly superior, and it's mostly down to the fact that it's just so fast, it holds speed so well, and you just have very consistent guns. He says while getting a hit on the Spitfire, but trust me, these guns are pretty consistent. I run the stealth belts, I just prefer them over everything else. They've been working very nicely for me. And if you fly something like the Mk.III or the J5N or basically anything with the Japanese 30 mils, you know that those guns basically do nothing about all of the time, and they are very frustrating to use, especially when your plane is not really made to get prolonged bursts on people anyway. And I'm mostly talking about the plane here. The Mk.III is just too much of a boat, and you're not really able to dive to the deck like you can with this thing, because the Mk.III doesn't really have a means of disengaging. It's pretty fast, but planes like the P-51Hs, the Hornets, and a lot of the allied planes actually, they can just dive on you and they will run you down. With the Hornet, that is not really that much of an issue, so you're able to be much more aggressive and leave a lot of position early. You don't have to cling on to it like with everything you have, because very often you're able to disengage, run away, and perhaps even climb away after they ended up being above you. Now of course something like a P-51H will absolutely ruin your day, but that is basically every prop in the game, because the P-51H is a bit of a menace. Now here we do that exact thing. We dive on the first guy we see, we lose a bit of altitude, and then we just go straight back into the climb. And because we have such a good climb rate, as well as a decent amount of entry speed, I'm able to just instantly spiral the Yak-15. And you can tell that I'm trying to keep it somewhat horizontal. I don't just go into an instant hammerhead, because it leaves you susceptible to people pitching up and spraying you from long range. Yes, even the Yak-15s can spray you down from long range, and you want to avoid that. Don't make yourself an easy target, because you are pretty easy to hit to begin with. The Yak-15 is down, and that is basically the last guy that has a semblance of altitude. So now we're able to contest the people that are mowing the lawn. And it's pretty easy to kill people that are mowing the lawn, but when it's a massive furball, it's very difficult to pick the right target, because if you go for, say, the F7F there, you get another guy on your 6, and the second you start going defensive in that kind of posture, the chances of you getting out of it are slim to none. So you do want to avoid that at all costs, and I do know that all these P-51s are P-51Hs. We had a BI in the game, which means it's 6.7, which means that the only P-51 I can see is of the H variety. I keep it horizontal, I keep my speed, I don't need to open up the loop that much, but I needed to open it up a slight amount more, because now I need to work very hard in order to actually get within this turning circle. I tried to pump the flaps a little bit there to get a bit more turn rate out of it, but I managed to rip them off. And now we're without flaps, which is actually going to hinder us a decent amount. The P-51 is able to recover quick enough, which means that I now compress and he kind of rolls around my nose. If he had set up for that a little bit better, I would have been dead right there. Luckily he didn't, and I'm able to disengage. We have another P-51 coming in on the left hand side, and we're just going to be climbing for a little bit to equalize the energy, and so that the SK-60 doesn't end up licking my bum. The LA-9 below us isn't really much of a threat. He starts turning anyway, and now it's only the P-51. And I was kind of, you know, preparing for a dogfight. However, he just kind of ignores the fact that I have been climbing to the side again and gives me a lot of altitude on him. Now the issue is here, the P-51, despite wasting a lot of energy, is still in a pretty good position, because he's about as fast as I am, and he is just simply much more maneuverable. Two guys go down on the deck due to my squad mates, and we still have 4 directly below us. So we go for, again, the P-51H. This is always going to be the priority target, and because of the way he has been flying, I thought he wasn't going to be paying attention, and he wasn't. But I just missed the shot all on my own. We then switch targets to the other P-51, and I am wasting a lot of energy here, but these P-51s need to die. I cannot leave these guys up, because they are going to single-handedly ruin my game. I can deal with an SK-60, I can deal with an LA-9, I can perhaps deal with a singular P-51H when I have a massive advantage, but all of those together, it's never going to happen. So I really wanted them to be out of the match. Unfortunately, I missed my shots, and now I'm forced to disengage. Now in this case, luckily we have Alec in the 162, which is honestly a very great plane to have when you're playing with something like a Hornet, but then he goes down. And now it's a bit of a 1v4. We are in a decent position. They are all down low, they're not going particularly quick, and we are outnumbered. And you might say, how is that a good thing? Well, there is one great thing about being the last one alive, and is that people get incredibly greedy. And when people get incredibly greedy, you can most of the time farm the entire lobby. Case in point, P-51H pitches up into a loop that he is never going to be hitting. He doesn't have the angle, he doesn't have the speed, and he doesn't have the altitude, nor the position. So we just wait for him to stall out, we drop down onto a still, and even without the flaps, he is going to die if he tries turning into me here. And that's exactly what he does. He sees his teammate coming in, he wants to wrap it up quickly, he engages with the dogfight from the worst position possible. And P-51H does the exact same thing. We pitch on over, we keep it horizontal, we drop behind the still, and we just kind of float into his flight path. Now this one is already slightly damaged, making it slightly more easy. He didn't really have many options there, and that is completely fine. But that is 2 P51Hs down in a span of 10 seconds, the second they think I'm outnumbered and I become a free kill. Because you saw earlier, they were diving away, they were keeping their speed, and they might not have had the best of awareness, but they were playing their cards somewhat right. And the second I'm the last guy left, they just turned into a bunch of Oompa Loompas. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a very natural thing, and I do the same thing myself. When it's 1v4, I will play a lot more aggressive, take a lot more risk, because I also want that last kill. But pitching up into a guy that's keeping his speed is not something that is on my bingo card. And then we have 2 LA9s, which I shouldn't have much difficulty with. I do want to be careful of the guns, because there is really no getting lucky when those things get lined up. But I just kind of fly parallel to him, I kind of keep my angle, I keep my speed, I wait for him to get directly underneath me. We are about to cross the 4 kilometer mark, and the second we get around this altitude, his plane doesn't operate all that well. He's in the supercharger gear switch altitude, and I mean, the plane doesn't really like being at higher alts anyway, and this plane does really like it. And you can tell that again, I don't go vertical, I just keep it horizontal, and if he tries to follow me, I will instantly clap his cheeks. And that's exactly what happens here. He tries to go a little bit vertical, he loses all of his energy, he loses all of his rate, and he basically stalls himself out into my guns in approximately half a turn. And this is why I like to not go straight vertical. If I go straight vertical there's a chance that he just pushes the nose down and starts rolling around to the point where you can't really do anything. You want to bait people into coming up to you. You don't really want yourself to go to them. You always want to dictate the terms of engagements in this thing. And yes, on the deck you are able to just peel off, keep going up, keep going down, do kind of yo-yos. And eventually the guy will be out of energy, and once he's out of energy, you'll have a very free and easy time to actually put him down. But unfortunately, most of the time the enemy simply just runs to the airfield, and now you can't leverage your entire positional advantage. They reset, they circle the base for a good 5 minutes, and they go back into a climb, which is exactly what happened here. We are now at about 4 kilometers. We are putting him into that supercharged gear switch altitude, and I just want to give him the initiative. Yet again, I'm not going that high. I want to give him the illusion that he's decently close, and by turning into him, it looks like the energy that I have is a lot lower than it actually is, if you just rely on the numbers. I again go horizontal, and I try to just kind of get behind and above him in order to pounce on him. You can tell here that because he tried to kind of pitch up into me, he gave me a lot of room to work with, and now he doesn't really have the energy to go back to the runway, unless he dives straight toward it. I'm not going for the attack just yet. I'm kind of just sticking the dogfight. I'm hanging behind him, giving him the illusion that he's actually turning with me and somewhat winning. And then the second I see him make a slight mistake, I'm gonna go for the kill. We go head on with him, we take his wingtip off, we dodge the head on, and we just kind of go up over his nose. And now all we really need to do is finish the job. And I'm gonna start my real job after finishing this one. Probably no videos until next Monday again. I'm still recovering, and well, I have 7 shifts this week, which is, yes, a great combination. And also, yes, that is a Sam shooting at my prop. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.